On another exciting entry of Animation Deliberation, we've got another interview. This one is with an award-winning film composer.
Join Ngiaw, who we had the wonderful opportunity to speak with. She got the Best Score for 2021 Hollywood Music and Media Award for her score on Blush, which is available on Apple TV+. Also notably known for Walt Disney Animation Studios' Short Circuit, Jing Hua, and Netflix's Rescued by Ruby.
Stay tuned to our conversation with Joy. After some ads, we have no say over whatsoever. Sing along if you know the words. 1, 2, 3, it's time for Animation Deliberation. A conversation and a celebration of our favorite action animated series. Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Animation Deliberation, the podcast where we take action, animation, and cartoons seriously, but not too seriously. My name's J. Scotty St. Clair.
I'm Zuhair Ali.
And today we are joined by a very special guest. We have with us award-winning film composer, Joy Ngiaw. Thank you for being here, Joy.
Thank you so much for having me. And I feel left out. I wish I knew the lyrics to the song and I can join you guys. That was so fun. That was really fun.
Well, now you can learn it and have it ready for the next time you join us.
Yes. I was like, whoa, wait, hang on. I want to join. I want to know the lyrics.
Well, I'm flattered because full transparency, I started to get a little embarrassed. I was like, wait, she's an award-winning film composer. No. I'm just like singing this little jingle that I came up with now.
No, I like to just make up silly jingles on my own time, and like no one would hear it, but you know it's fun. It's fun. It makes my day happy. So I appreciate it.
Cool.
It's funny. The last couple of times we've asked anybody if they wanted to like learn it and join along, they're just like, no, we're just gonna pass. It's just super shy right off the bat. So I think we just gave up on asking.
Yeah.
No, but that like totally put me in the mood. I'm like ready. Let's go.
That was the goal. I'm happy. All right. Well, first of all, I want to congratulate you on the award. You received the Best Score for the 2021 Hollywood Music and Media Award for your work on Blush. Again, congratulations. Very well earned. I just guess I want to start by asking, like, how does it feel to be recognized and esteemed with such an honor?
Wow, thank you so much. It was very surreal because I was part of such great company, and when I got signed on to this film, I honestly just wanted to help tell the story and bring this really important film forward. So to be able to be recognized through the music, it makes me feel very grateful and humbled actually that hopefully it helped translate the message that the director wants to show through this film. So very, very honored.
Yeah, I think you did an absolutely outstanding job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll admit that I watched this for the first time last night in preparation for today, and I was not expecting to get as emotional as I did. Whenever I go into watching a content, whether it's for the podcast or just for my own pleasure, I try not to know anything about voice actors and who made it and how it was made. Like, I want to go in and get immersed in the story as much as I can. And before hitting play, I was telling myself, it's like, make sure you're paying attention to the music because that's who we're interviewing. That's the important thing. And the second that it started, I totally got lost in it. It was so beautiful for something that didn't have words. And like, I think towards the end, I was like, was I even paying attention? Like, I was paying attention to the music because it was beautiful and set such a wonderful tone and mood and the expression of just the whole story. But by the end of it, I was just like, wow, I was not expecting to get like that into it. So like, well done for what a 10-minute film that didn't have a single piece of dialogue in it. Like, so much was said.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Honestly, it's all props to also the team. We have such a wonderful team, and this is such a personal story to Joe Mateo, our director. And I think everyone just did such a great job. We all like poured our hearts into it, especially on a film with such immense meaning, of like healing and hope. And I appreciate what you said. Like, to be honest, sometimes when I write music, like how I know when a score is done is if I'm not paying attention to the music anymore and I'm just fully immersed in the story. And to me, that means I've done my job right. It's not meant to be distracting or anything. It's like, did I serve the story? Did I help bring that forward? So I'm glad to hear that it translated.
Yeah. I can only echo Zuhair's sentiments. I think again, you speak to the collaborative effort and the whole team coming together, which is totally true, especially with animation. Like between the animators having to, animate facial expressions to kind of convey emotion. But I really feel like you and your team had to do a lot of the heavy lifting with there not being any dialogue whatsoever. And the music did such a good job of transporting you to like this ethereal kind of world, like so otherworldly. And yeah, just the notes of grief and melancholy kind of highlighted with these like moments of whimsy and joy. Like it did the job of the dialogue. So yeah, again, kudos to you for that. And I want to get back to Blush, but I kind of want to pick your brain a little bit about some of your background and kind of how you got into the industry and what your process is like. So upon doing some research, I noticed for most of your credits, you're either credited more recently as the composer or previously the score coordinator. So I was hoping maybe you could provide some insight into, the differences between those roles, like what each role really entails, and maybe how your time as a score coordinator kind of prepared you to start taking the helm as a composer.
Yeah, talk to us like we know nothing about the industry, as I'm calling it myself.
Yeah, of course. Those experiences was very, very valuable. As a composer's assistant, as a score coordinator, as someone on a music team. That's kind of how I dipped my toes into this industry. When I first moved to LA after college, I went to Berklee College of Music, and
cool.
then when you get to LA, you're fresh and you're just trying to learn as much as possible. Even we had like a music degree. I feel like so many things you have to learn by experience. So I started off as as an intern, and then as assistant. So I've been in all sorts of positions in the music team.
Okay.
And they're all very, very valuable because I feel like everyone works so differently. I assisted, TV composers, film composers, documentary composers, and those. I think it was like 3 years I was doing that. It was all such great learning experiences. Like, what does it take for a score to, from the start to finish? How does it get to when you see on screen? There's actually so much that goes into that, and it wasn't until I start, by helping these composers who are more experienced and who's been in this industry for a while, then I start to pick their brains. Like, okay, so this is their workflow. How can I use that, to develop my own workflow in the future? So as a score coordinator, we're just trying to make sure everything gets delivered very smoothly from the composer side to the production side. Just assisting the composer in general, help make their workflow, because it's not just writing music. There's so much else involved in terms of technical preparation, score preparation, etc. So those are pretty much my job. So I really, on the side, while I was assisting other composers, I still kept on with my own composing gigs. Like I started off by scoring indie projects and going to film festivals, because I know ultimately I want to also develop my own career as a composer. So it was important to me to be able to step out of my comfort zone and just start meeting people and in LA. That's like the perfect place to be, where you can meet so many creatives everywhere. So I think it's like I did them both at the same time, like assisting, but also doing my own thing at the same time. And eventually I got to the point where like I've done enough indie projects that I feel that I am able to sustain myself, as a composer.
Nice.
So it's a gradual process, but super fun.
Yeah, as a photographer, I can totally relate to just kind of like, you get very comfortable being in one spot and sticking with that one craft and just kind of working with it, and to be able to like actually step out of that and be like, I actually have the time to go do my own thing and work with other people and try. There's no harm in trying something else when it comes to arts. But
exactly.
we as artists, because we're so worried of messing up, we for some reason talk ourselves out of taking that possibility of doing something that literally has no consequences to it.
Yeah, exactly. And I really do take every experience as a learning opportunity. Like even now, no matter what position I'm doing, how helping others, whether I'm on the music team or I'm the sole composer.
Mm.
I just feel like there's always so much to learn, and you never start learning and growing as an artist.
Sure.
And we're always working.
Yeah, and I just have to say I have such a profound appreciation for people that are able to create music, write music, read music, play instruments, because I'm a creative person myself. I'm more in the visual side of things, like liking to draw and Photoshop and graphic design and stuff like that. But music has always been one of those ones that's a little more abstract to me. So just the fact that people can take nothing and evoke such emotion from an acoustic point of view, like with sound, is just baffles me and also delights me. So I wanted to ask, you mentioned, going to Berkeley Music College, which is just around the corner from you, actually. At what point did you kind of decide like that was going to be your career path, going from like what was your first instrument you played? When did you develop this and foster this interest? And when did you decide that it was going to be a career, and more specifically that you were going to work within the film industry as opposed to just maybe being a musician or an artist in another format?
As I like to say, what was your origin story?
There we go.
Yeah. Well, I found my love for composing through pretty much improvising on the piano. So my main instrument is piano. I learned classical piano since age of 6, I believe.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, like my parents are really, I was really grateful that my parents just really encouraged us to kind of like try different interests. So I dabbled a bit in guitar and piano, and I did like art, dance and all that. And then I stuck with piano. I don't know. I guess I just always felt really connected to that instrument. And I remember when I was young, during lunch break, I was such a nerd that I would sneak into the auditorium and just eat where the piano is at, and then I would just like compose music. Or I didn't know it was composing at the time, where I was just improvising on the piano based on what mood I'm in and trying to see what that feels like.
So
and
cool.
yeah, and then until the teacher came in and she was like, I think you can try composing. Like, why don't you try that out? And then it made me realize like, oh, I love watching movies. I grew up watching, Disney films, and I just love animation, and the music in that was just it's so engaging to, no matter what age you're at. And even if it's a film that I haven't seen for a long time, a childhood film, I always seem to remember the music, and it just gave such a familiar feeling that like, oh, once you hear that soundtrack or the songs, you immediately are transported back to the story and what the characters are feeling. So I know that just really fascinated me, and I decided to pursue film scoring because Berkeley had a major for that, and I guess why I wanted to do film scoring as opposed to just composing, in general, is like I really love connecting with people. I love talking to people. I love learning about their stories. I really believe everyone has such a unique perspective to tell, and so I think in the combination of that, my love for music, but also talking and working with others, I felt like film scoring was like the path that I wanted to go. So
I admire
yeah, I
your
feel
level
really
of
grateful.
commitment, because my family got me into piano at first too. Because first it was like, just do it. Like, if you don't like it, whatever. And I think I did it for 3 or 4 years, but it was very like by the books. Like, I did what I was told to do. And at the time it was like, okay, I can play this piano, whatever. And as I got older, it's like, I really wish I kept up with it, or some type of music in general, because I come from a family of singers and I like singing, but when it comes to like actually playing an instrument, it's like I haven't dedicated the time to it as much as I should have. And even when COVID started, like, I got a guitar from my friend, but then I never got slow from work like I expected to, so it's still collecting dust. And much admiration, because it is something that is very meticulous and takes a lot of patience and desire, which you seem to have. You triggered a couple core memories for me too, talking about your inspirations and stuff, because as somebody who grew up on Bollywood movies and Disney as well, I've become a hopeless romantic, which kind of adds to like my feelings towards watching Blush. Two films crossed my mind in particular as you were sharing that story. So I have a question as I'm monologuing. First movie is when the remake of Aladdin came out. I felt like a child
Oh.
all over again when that music kicked off right off the
Oh
bat.
my God. That's what I
Everything
felt about
about that
Lion
was
King.
perfect.
Nice.
You thought of Lion King? Okay.
Yeah, because I think that's the era we grew up at, right? Like that. Oh man,
Yeah.
it's such a nostalgic feeling. Like when that comes up, like, oh, I'm gonna cry.
It was Aladdin for me because, like, to this day, because my last name's Ali, like, people still call me Prince Ali sometimes.
Oh
So
my God, so
I,
fun.
I felt like a 5-year-old all over again when I went to the
Oh
theater with my
man.
mom and I was watching that remake and I was like, this is amazing. Um,
Right? Oh
but
man.
I don't know if you were ever into Pokemon,
Yes, I loved
but
Pokemon.
Nice.
Pokemon 2000 Lugia song
Oh.
is something that is still stuck in my head to this day. It is one of
Oh.
the most beautiful things I've ever heard. I don't even know what else to say about it. Is there anything aside from Lion King that's like influenced you that same way, where it's like whenever you're looking for inspiration or just something you think back on, like that you just kind of like hold on to from like
Absolutely. I
music
think
in the glory days
anything.
of animation?
Yeah, I love anything Joe Hisaishi writes. That I love the Miyazaki movies, and
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
and like his scores always like transports me to a whole other world. It's crazy. I feel like his music has so much depth and complexity and and emotion, and I'm always just so fascinated. How does he do that? Like,
Mm.
how do you like listen to a piece of music that he writes? I don't know, from Spirited Away or Princess Mononoke, and then all of a sudden you're like, am I in a forest, or like am I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
in a distant memory? Like it just makes me feel that way. So I absolutely love his scores, and I love all those movies.
Yeah, big Miyazaki fan here. And I guess it seems like one of the themes of those movies a lot of time is like that you're dealing with like either a very young or more often not like a woman protagonist that's kind of like dealing with the loss of innocence and kind
Hmm.
of like a coming of age and taking on like this larger than life adventure to kind of find their identity, find their bravery, and find who they are. And I think that's, while maybe not beat for beat the same, but with both Blush, Short Circuit, Jing Hua, I think those themes are kind of there as well, where it's got this tone of otherworldliness and adventure, but also this kind of feeling of loss and sorrow. So,
Wow,
and
you
the two
just summed it
share,
up perfectly. You
yeah,
just summed it up perfectly.
I mean,
Wow.
the two share so much in common. There's virtually no dialogue, and they're ultimately dealing with the processing of loss and grief. And I just
Yeah.
wanted to ask: is this like a coincidence, or is there something that attracts you to projects like these?
I that's
Are
why
you
I said you
just that
summed it
good?
up so I know you just summed it up so perfectly, because I didn't even think about that, but you're right. I never really questioned why am I so drawn to these projects, but I guess I'm just fascinated by human emotion and all
Hmm.
those facets of life. Like it's not all happiness and joy. There's also some
Hmm.
bittersweet moments, and that's just what life is. And the emotion of
Mm.
grief, it's felt universally. um but what these films teach us is like it's not just about sadness. There's also
Hmm.
remembering the good times, and how do we move
Yes.
forward by building new
Hmm.
connections and holding to that. And wow, you really summed it up so perfectly. I'm like having goosebumps. Like, oh, I think, is that why I love these projects? I guess so. They all have that
uh,
tone, right?
yeah, for sure, for sure.
You're more expressive with your music than you gave yourself credit for.
No, it's great. I really give props to the filmmakers to explore these emotions. It's really it's deep, and it takes a lot of vulnerability from their end
Mm,
to put
mm,
themselves out there like that. And whenever someone does that, even in a regular conversation, I feel really honored and blessed. That thank you for sharing, for sharing your story,
mm,
because I really love hearing that. I love feeling connected to someone else. It does make me feel alive as a human being, but also as an artist. Sorry, as an artist, but also a human being. That's it.
mm,
Yeah, that's the way.
yeah. And another thing that these two shorts have in common. I want to get back to Jing Hua specifically about something you brought up with the instrumentation there. but both directors, Jerry Hune, I believe it is, with
Yes.
Jing Hua, and then you mentioned Joe Mateo with Blush. They dedicated their shorts to loved ones they lost. I believe it was Joe Mateo's wife, and then for Jerry, it was his grandfather, grandmother, and cousin, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I just wanted to ask about how closely you got to work with these directors, and maybe how that influenced what you brought to the table from a musical standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. When I first met Joe and Jerry, they were both so incredibly brave and generous in sharing their vulnerability. It really opened up such a great conversation about why they want to make this film and what do they want the films to represent. And in the case of Blush, Joe, of course, experienced so much sadness, and he said, I really want this film to hopefully bring some healing and hope in times of grief, in times of sadness, in times of isolation, because we did this film during COVID. And those conversations really help. I think those initial meet and greets with the director, and also to be able to talk to them and have them share their story, it helps me as a composer, because it becomes like the backbone of the sound palette of anything that I write for that film. Because like I would think really closely to the why, what is the purpose of this of this film, and then it makes me think of my musical choices with intention.
Right.
So all of these experiences, they, because of their vulnerability and willingness to share, it just serves I really want the music to serve that purpose and make sure it comes back to this core, no matter what I do.
Love
I
that.
hope that answered your question.
Oh, yeah, you answered it wonderfully. Thank you for those insights. Yeah.
I'm just trying to think how to use words now.
No, I guess.
Yeah, you really just blow my mind with that. I mean, I'm replaying Blush in my head as you're sharing this too, because again, when I started the movie, I had no idea of the background. I didn't realize it was like a love letter to a true story, and I'm thinking about how the end of that movie really terrified me, because the logical part of me is like, oh, she disappears at any point, how is he supposed to breathe? And you forget about it because you're immersed, and then you see it happen, and you're like, I'm actually like, first off, like, work's actually been trying to kill me, and I was exhausted as I was watching this. I cannot get you how quickly I flip my recliner and I'm sitting on the edge of my seat, like really invested in this. So that emotion of the music getting more intense and him suffocating, and the animation quality of this was incredible too, from like the dirt of his boots to like understanding like the passage of time because of like the scruff on his face. But like as he's losing his breath, like you can see the tears drying up too.
Yeah.
So now understanding what the story was that influenced this, and representing the suffocation of loss with actual suffocation in space, like that was incredibly powerful. And then knowing that support is what helps you get that together, knowing that this is a phase that can be walked through. It's very difficult, it's very painful, but knowing that you need to open your arms to, loved ones to get through the next phase and find that metaphorical, in this case, literal breath of fresh air again. Like, yeah, I don't have words. This is just really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, and the fact that the little girls just lost their mother, they don't need to lose their father as well. So like he needs to, find the strength to be there for them. Yeah,
Man,
totally.
This film it's incredible, because when I first brought into this project, there wasn't even animation. It was just storyboards and artwork.
Okay.
And even when I watched just the artwork, I felt so lost for words. Like what you guys experienced is like, I just sat there and was like, how do I respond to this at this moment? Because I'm still processing it on my own. It's such it really touched your heart so deeply. And the concept of breath kept coming back, and actually that inspired a lot of the score. I actually added some breath elements into that, and and where it's placed is very intentional. Like when when he first sees the pink alien there was
Right.
breath that comes in, and then but when she leaves, the breath goes away for a second, but it comes back again when he's embraced by his daughters. It's all very intentional, and that's what I learned a lot from this process of scoring Blush, and for Jing Hua, any of the other projects too, is that the music, when you're scoring for a film, everything has to have intention. It's not just just placing it there and hope it works. It's like I'm really thinking about, okay, if I put this note here and I use this instrumentation here, and I start the music here, etc. Like, is it serving something? Am I helping the character? Am I serving the story? And I feel that that's our main job as a film composer, is like to really bring the director's vision and story forward. So I feel so. Thank you for sharing, your experiences of watching Blush. It really makes me touched, to hear that it translated. So
I gave you a follow on Instagram too as you were explaining your stuff. So I'm looking forward to all the future projects as well.
Nice.
So you mentioned talking to the director and like being speechless when you looked at all the pre-production stuff.
Yeah.
How does the process work for you from there? Like, do you have a moment to process and you go home and like the music just starts coming to you? Is it something that you work with people and develop over time? Like, what's kind of like the mental stages of like putting these pieces together?
Yeah, so actually when I saw those storyboards, I wasn't officially hired yet. They were still looking for composers. So they were just like, "Are you interested in submitting a demo?" And, of course I said yes, because the storyboards were just so powerful. And, because of NDA reasons, I wasn't supposed to have the storyboards, obviously. So I just really and this is where, talking to the director, really understanding them comes in handy, because without picture, I'm just like, okay, what does Joe want to say? Okay, he told me his backstory, how when he first met Marianne, his wife, how she just took his breath away as soon as she turned around, and she had this very innocent blush on her face. It's a true story. Like and I just felt so moved by just that. Like he said, like I knew it, and he was in, I don't know, high school or something, and it was the way he described her. Even though I never met her, I feel that I'm living the memory of her through his words. And so when I was starting to come up with the themes, that's just through pitching. I'm like, what does that feel like when a very innocent, when you look at someone and then you start to have butterflies, what does that feel like? So I came up with the simple piano notes, which became the theme for Blush, just by trying to visualize what does it feel like to be at that moment. And and then I started to send some demos, and they really loved it. So I feel really grateful that it resonated with Joe. And from those theme, we started talking about, okay, so Blush also has showcased another facets of emotions like grief. What does that feel like using this theme? So then I started to write something that has use the theme but create a variation of that. And then like, what does it feel like when it's have a little bit of hopefulness, something like that. So it's a really fun thematic development based on the musical idea. And because this film has no dialogue, having something that's very having a theme, a memorable theme, is really can help the audience, can guide the audience to this story without dialogue.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I think the award, like I said, it's well deserved, and it speaks for itself, the incredible work that you did. But just to hear you tell that story, how Joe poured so much of himself and his personal story into that, and for you to present him with what you're working on and to have it resonate with him, I imagine that has to be, there's like no other feeling like that as an artist to be. Yeah.
There really isn't. When they told me I was hired through Zoom, I cried. I had no professionalism there. I was like, and they were just like, they were so sweet that everybody was just like, "Oh man, I wish we recorded you. You were so sweet." I'm like, "Oh my god, this is crazy." It's so weird. I really feel like-minded people just, I wasn't afraid to be myself. Even though I guess I should have been more professional, but I wasn't afraid to be myself. And thankfully all of my collaborators and partners, they all accept me. So I guess I don't know, that worked out.
Love that.
And a few things as you were describing this kind of process, they seem like natural transitions for some questions that I have. But was this process with Blush, was that kind of unique? Are you typically presented with storyboards or like animatics, or do you usually have a more complete project? And has it ever been like almost reverse engineered where you find that like the music you're presenting goes on to influence the animation or the direction more so than you were anticipating?
So in terms of animation, I think it is more common for composers to be brought on board early on.
Okay.
And so right now I'm scoring an animation TV show, and I've been
Mm,
brought on when the animatics aren't even out. It's just some storyboards or even scripts. And
okay.
I've been brought on to just like develop character themes and
Cool.
location themes and all that. Because I think it really helps inspire the animation too. They just like how I'm
Hmm.
inspired by anything I see on screen. They said they're also inspired by the music for certain timings. So I think it is pretty common for in animation to be brought on board a little bit earlier to score to sometimes scripts or early storyboards or animatics. For live action, it's it depends on the team, but I feel like in
Mm,
terms of animation wise, it's more common. Yeah.
okay. Cool. Cool.
And I get to
And
see some cool artwork, which is really fun.
nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah. As an artist, that's great that you get those like early insights to that.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to get back to what you kind of mentioned about live action, kind of the diversity of your career. But while we're kind of on this subject, like how is it that you find yourself getting involved with these projects? Are they something that you're seeking out, or at this point in your career, are the creators seeking you out? How does that work?
I feel like it's both ways.
Okay.
I feel like the studios are listening. You know, there's a lot of work to be done that encourages like they want to. Everyone wants to hear a new voice. Like we want to hear new
Hmm.
perspectives and new stories. You know, so many people want to see their themselves represented on screen, and I just feel
Hmm.
really fortunate that I'm in this industry right now where I feel like yes, I'm seeking to I want to seek for projects that help celebrate diversity. At the
Of
same time, I
course.
feel that they're also giving a chance to up and coming composers and artists and creatives. And it all, it's thanks to so many uh, experienced composers who paved the way for us, I think. And I think that the time is now for us to just be
Yeah.
bold and share. Like for example, Disney, the Short Circuit, that's a really unique program where
Yeah. Super
um my,
cool.
yeah, my director Jerry, he shared that like it's just like anyone can pitch. Anyone that works at Disney, you don't have to be a director or a screenwriter at Disney to pitch for this. Anybody can pitch,
Mm.
and it's just such a cool way to showcase talent and to discover talent, and to just
Hmm.
see such a wide range of projects. Like just looking at those episodes, every episode is so different.
Sure. Yeah.
And they're not afraid to try something new. So I just feel that I think that people are listening. That it's time to try something new.
Agreed.
With your comments about like inclusion and people making more music that's relevant to culture or history or where they're from. Have you had or have you experienced any music like that in something that you've watched that's made you feel like connected with culture and somehow? Like for
Yeah.
me, for example, when Ryan the Last Dragon came out, that was a big deal for me
Yes.
because I have been training Filipino martial arts for the last 7 years. And
What? So
in that, like
cool.
my teacher actually has been teaching me how to play the drums with him. And
Wow.
it's also just a huge part of Pakistani culture is, tabla, and whenever we have like house parties and stuff and everyone's singing together, you just grab the pots and pans out of the kitchen and start making music together. So the drums and the style of music in Raya was super impactful, and I just fell in love with it right
Mhm.
away. Is there anything that you've watched that's made you feel that way?
So I loved the Raya for sure because I also saw a lot of influences in Malaysia. I'm from Malaysia, so it was
Mm.
super
Oh
cool
wow.
to see to see that, oh my god, they're eating satay or like something that I'm used to growing up. I guess I really enjoyed Mulan. I mean,
Mm.
she's up till now still one of my favorite Disney movies because she was just such a badass, and I look up to
Oh yeah.
her. And when I was I forgot when it came out, but I was a little girl when I saw that, and it was just super cool to be like, wow, there's a Disney princess that's the hero. That's how
I
cool is that? And
believe it was 1998.
okay,
Yep.
yes. So how cool is that? And even now, I'm still. I will still watch it on movie night
Oh yeah,
just
yeah.
to feel inspired, and it's just so cool to see those. And like you said, Zuhair, it's just nice to see people represented. Like, Encanto was really cool, and
Oh
that music
yes.
score was amazing. Jermaine Franco, like, props to her. She was so cool, and I really look up to her. Yeah, the Riot score was really good. Turning Red was
And
really
we
fun.
talked about Marvel off screen. Miss Marvel and Shang-Chi, the
Yes.
music put in there was incredible.
Yeah, and yeah, shout out to Laura Cartman. Her score for Miss Marvel was super cool. I just love that composers now are able to, because there's more and more content out there that celebrates diversity. It gives us a chance to kind of, ooh, let me add something from my culture or for what I understand to the score. And how many great, there's just so much anyone can bring to the table just because this opens up. Like, let's not stay in the safe zone. There's so many cool ways to express these all these really unique stories. Black Panther, that's a really cool score too, like the
Oh yeah.
percussion, so fun. It's yeah, just so many. It's a great time to just be inspired. I think everyone just wants to hear new things, see new things, learn new things. And I feel really fortunate. The animation show that I'm working on right now, I can't say what it is yet, but it's a show that also goes into different cultures, and I get to use a lot of world
Such a
instruments. Like,
tease.
I'm sorry, but it will come out soon. But yeah, it's cool. It gives me opportunity to, like, ooh, let me find some Amazonic instrument and just bang stuff and create new
Cool.
textures, or like record different unique instruments I never used before. And it's fun. Like, it just gives such an opportunity to be creative.
Oh, that's so exciting.
You mentioned Black Panther, and that, like, Ludwig Göransson is, like, he continues to impress me with just how catchy his themes are. But I can't help but think,
So fun.
with season 1 of The Mandalorian, they did the gallery series where they showed, every episode was dedicated to, like, a different part of the process behind the scenes. And I loved the episode that focused on the music and Ludwig Göransson. So I wanted to ask is, have you seen that? And, like, on the subject of, like, your peers and people that you kind of admire, is there anybody that, like, you'd absolutely, like, jump at the chance to work with, like, collaboratively?
Oh, he's one of the. I haven't met him before, but we're represented by the same agent. So if you're hearing this, reach out. I would love to meet you, because I loved his. I really love his score for so many things. Turning Red, Mandalorian, Black Panther. To name a few. So, any composers right now? There's so many. Everyone's so bold in trying new things. Like what Laura Carmen, like I mentioned, I really loved her score for Miss Marvel, just because it really showcased that, like, teenager phase, but then also with, like, so many traditional instruments, but also fun beats. So I think it's so cool that there's just so many opportunities to kind of combine things that you wouldn't think will work, but, like, oh, here it goes. And like the score for Turning Red as well. It's like the Chinese these I think he used, or like a flute, Chinese flute, but then combine it with hip hop beats, like totally brought us to that era. So yeah, super cool.
Yeah, that was another one that I think spoke to our generation specifically, with, like, the throwback to, like, 90s and early 2000s boy bands, plus her cultural heritage there. Yeah, that movie was an absolute delight. I did want to go back to Jing Hua for a moment. And even with Blush, like you mentioned, the piano theme, and with the breath, like, when you said that, it reminded me that there was, correct me if I'm wrong here, but there was actually, like, a fair amount of, like, vocalization, if I'm not mistaken, that there actually was there. And I think that really helped deliver the emotions, and I appreciate that. And that seemed a little bit different from some of the other stuff you work on, and specifically with, like, Jing Hua, I noticed it was a lot of violin. I believe that's the instrument
Yes,
I was hearing.
Cello, yeah. So for
cello, okay.
Yeah, cello. For Jing Hua, we went with cello, because that was a conversation I had with Jerry. Like, do you want a traditional Chinese instrument there, like perhaps a erhu, or would you prefer, I can, you maybe try a cello. And he
Okay.
said like he wanted it to be a really universal emotion, universally received. So at that point, he was like, let's try it with cello and see what that sounds like. He didn't want it to be too on the nose with
Okay.
that, since it was already Chinese calligraphy.
Hmm.
And thank you for saying the whole vocal thing about blush, because that was me.
Oh
I'm not a
wow, that's
vocalist.
incredible.
I'm not a
Wow.
vocalist, but like that was a fun thing for Blush, where I recorded it, at my home studio. At that time, it was during the pandemic. We couldn't go to a professional studio to record it. And I thought, okay, so let me just record myself, because I have ideas about vocalizations, and because we want to showcase the element of air. So I really wanted
Right.
to feature lots of wind instruments, or like wind chimes, or vocal textures, whatnot. So I recorded myself first, thinking that someone like a professional vocalist will replace it after. But then the director and the team loved it so much, they're like, no, you're not replacing that. We want to keep that. I guess it's like there was an element of shyness, because I wasn't really comfortable, but I just had fun doing it. But I guess that translated, that they said that represented the character really well, because it's very shy and it's innocent. So let's go with that. So I had a lot of fun doing that. And I from that project, it actually encouraged me to start adding my own voice into my scores. So yeah, that was fun.
That's amazing. So happy for you.
So in my attempt to learn some terminology and whatnot, there's a part. So at the part in Blush, when I'm actually like watching the scene over and over as he talks, so I can explain it properly. When he's holding her for the last time,
Yeah.
is it just called vocalization when they go like,
Oh, that's like
stuff like that? Like, what's the term for that? Because I'm paying attention to it a lot more, but like I said, I don't like keep track of it, so I can't give another good example. But the second that it happened in this, I was like, God, that sounds so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I felt so touched. It's so cool to hear other people depict what I did. I never had this happen, so I was like, whoa. Honestly, when I did it, I didn't think about, to be very honest with you, I didn't think about, any terminology per se. It was just like, okay, that moment felt, especially when that exact moment you were describing, is when she kind of falls in his arm. So I don't know, it just felt right when I was kind of recording myself. It just felt right to kind of drop as well. Terminology, I guess that's portamento, I'm not sure, but I just felt like that part felt right to just go down, because she left. She fell. So like it's another
So that
example
was
of
your
how.
voice?
Yeah, that was my voice.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
You want to try to reenact it for us?
Nah, you know what? So the funny thing is, I tried re-recording it sometimes, and then the music supervisor is like, "I don't get rid of your vocals, because I mean, maybe a professional vocalist can do it again, but for me, like, because I was just feeling at that moment, I could maybe try again, but it's like that's another, to me, such a beautiful thing about composing, like or like coming up with ideas, because sometimes I feel like I I think to myself, like, if I didn't start writing at this moment, would I come up with the same thing? Like, if I write like an hour later, would I come to this specific? I don't know. You never know, I guess. But it's just such a, yeah, it becomes a bit spiritual in my opinion, like when it's about composing. How come that a specific moment inspire you to do that thing?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that was captured, because it's wow.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it really encourages me to just try new things. It really encouraged me to like add my voice and things now. So thank you for saying
So
that.
you talk about it being spiritual and everything, and I totally get that, where you just get like in the zone that you don't even think about like recreating or recording or
Yeah.
anything like that. Have you ever like caught yourself in the zone and like tried to just hit a record button somewhere and like maintain that, or is it all just like fully immersed and then you're just out of it and just, oh, I should have recorded that?
No, there were moments for sure where I was improvising in my head, but I didn't hit record, and sometimes I'm like, no, I didn't hit record. But no, I mean, this it's. I guess it's like all different situations happen. There's not really one side, but like, I gotta say though, like when you're in the zone and you forget like time and where you are, and you're just fully doing that thing, and composing is the only thing that makes me feel that way. I think I never found something else that makes me feel like it doesn't really matter what time it is. Like you're in the process of flow, and I think that that's for every creative. They have their sense of that, and I think that becomes like your emotional outlet. Like I think that's why I gravitated towards going to the auditorium and during lunch break. I don't know, like just I feel like that was a way for me to express myself, whether it's
totally
through art or writing, photography, like I just feel so inspired whenever I see someone in their zone.
I feel that with the martial arts more than anything, because I hope my students don't listen to this part, but since I've been playing the drums like with Guro during like sparring sessions or during Karenza, which is like the Kali equivalent of shadow boxing, I get so into the drums, I'm not paying attention to what they're doing. So when there's like a debrief afterwards, they're like, what did you think of this guy's movements or how that person's like, I was trying to keep tempo the whole time. I was trying to match what Guro was giving and this and that. But I also feel the same thing of like when I'm on the mat and actually like getting in the space, I get so lost. And then when it's over, I'm like, man, can we not go over like another 3 hours or something? Yeah. And I actually had this conversation with my mom about like how I haven't felt that way going for prayers and stuff and actually sitting in a prayer hall, because something about sitting and being immersed in my own thoughts doesn't click the same as like moving and being accountable for something and then just forgetting that I'm in that space. It's kind of like what was the other Pixar movie with the jazz artist?
Soul?
Yes.
Yeah,
that was
I love that
so
one too.
perfectly represented about how he's in this bubble and literally in a different dimension. The way that they show it is literally the best way to explain it.
That was an amazing movie. I think a lot of us creatives can relate to that, right? So good.
Yeah. That's when we do our best work. And for me, it's when I'm drawing. Like I can relate to everything you both just said. Like hours can go by, and I usually have a pretty accurate like internal clock. But when I get into that zone, it's just hours and hours will go by, and I don't even notice it. So I think that really translates.
Getting started is always the tricky spot.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm always There's a little bit of a mental battle. I feel that every time I start a project, there's lots of self-doubt that kicks in.
Sure.
And just like, but then once you're in the zone, like it just need to cross that mental hurdle, I think, and then you're in the zone.
Yeah, it's like kind of tapping into like almost like an out of body experience where you are not. I'll speak for myself, but it's like I kind of cease to exist, and the creative force just kind of takes over for a while, and it's kind of freeing in that way with the stresses of this modern world, just to kind of be able to escape it for a little while. But another one of those forms of escape for me, escapism, and is video games. We mentioned Pokemon earlier. It sounds like all of us can appreciate video games, but I want to talk about What Remains of Edith Finch. So you mentioned a few of the live action properties, and we'll get back to that. But obviously, we're focused on animation here. But video games are a form of animation, and I had the pleasure of playing What Remains of Edith Finch. And again, I have to kind of like note these recurring themes. Like it's this sense of exploration and melancholy, again, doused with these moments of hopefulness and mystery again. So I'm curious about how you got involved with that project specifically. Are video games a realm you would like to continue to work in?
Yes, absolutely. The composer for that is Jeff Russo. I got a pleasure of assisting him my first year of LA, and it was really cool because he works on such a huge variety of projects, like TV shows, films, also video game, and that was really fun because actually in college I took video game scoring class and got to learn a little bit about that, because that realm is also the way you score is a little bit different because you're not really scoring to linearly. It's a bit more I don't know, in my head it feels like it's more vertical because everyone plays the games different, and you don't know, the timing is not locked, but like, how do you add layers to the music to increase the intensity, or like how does it morph seamlessly between each stage? Like, I feel like that whole how to say that art of scoring for video games is also something that is a whole other arena, and I definitely wish I can like be more involved in that. That was one of the very few video games that I was involved in. But yeah, it's such a cool way of storytelling too, and so many video games are just like you said, like that. Edith Finch was such a cool one. I think there's so many other narrative video games that I really like. I really liked Heavy Rain. That was really fun.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, the score is really good too. So yeah, I mean, I haven't had much experience.
Kane Bridge of Spirits?
No, but I feel that from the name, I will like it.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, that's the one that kind of looks like Miyazaki brought to life.
Oh, it feels like the kind of stuff that I would like.
That's the one that I said is basically like Raya and Assassin's Creed put together.
Ooh. Oh, okay. I know Journey. Have you heard of that one? That
yes,
it's so freaking beautiful. Like I just want to screenshot everything from that video game. A lot of like cool ones, like Ori and the Blind Forest. That soundtrack was really good too.
Ooh, yes, I love both the Ori games. Ori games are great. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's so many. I just feel like this. I'm so like fascinated by how many art forms there are to express yourself. Like it's not just film, TV, shorts, podcasts. Like there's so many ways to be creative. Video games,
totally.
Like it's what a good time to be in this industry, I think.
Is there any music in the world of anime that has stood out to you?
Animation? Sorry, you mean animation?
Like anime specifically.
Oh, anime. Oh, I loved Final. Okay, I guess that's Final Fantasy. Does that count? Well, that's more than
I think it counts.
But, but also, let's see what else. Anime. Oh my god, I should know this. I loved Sakura growing up. Yeah. Do you know Sakura, the card captor? I don't know. I really liked that anime. I loved Inuyasha. That was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What other anime did I watch? I don't know. I guess that's
I'm doing my binge of My Hero Academia right now since the new season starts up next month.
Ooh, I didn't see that one.
And with everything that happens in that show, like now that I'm rewatching it, the music like either amps me up or brings me to tears because it's just so powerful, like all the messages that go with it, and it being like affiliated with that insanely amazing music too, like that do 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 do. Like whenever that comes on, I'm just so fired up and just like ready to do whatever.
Amazing. Another anime. Have you seen Attack on Titans?
Yes.
That's that one. Yeah, that one. I mean, it's scary. Especially the music it makes me feel even more scared. But I feel the same way when I hear the theme. And I'm like, yeah, let's go. Let's go some Titans. Yeah, I haven't seen the latest season. That's the last one I need to see. The final season. I'm not caught up yet.
We casted on that every episode, so feel free to check us out as you're going on if you need someone to talk to.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so cool. Yeah, that's the next one on my to watch list. I know that. Is it all out? The whole
final?
The whole fourth season is out. Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that I would say that's the most recent anime that I've seen.
Cool.
Yeah.
Add Demon Slayer to your list.
Yeah, Demon Slayer is quality.
Oh,
I think it'd be right up your alley as well.
Cool. That sounds fun. I see that advertised on. It's a Netflix. I think Netflix is.
Yes.
Yes. I think Hulu does like the weekly releases, but like what's already out is on Netflix.
Cool. Oh, and Death Note. Sorry, have you guys seen that one?
I love Death Note. Yes.
Oh yeah, that was fun too.
Yeah.
My cousin gave me, so there's like that book that he gave me, the physical book that says the Death Note on it, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with this book because it just feels really scary. He gave it to me when I was a teenager. I don't know what to do with it. It feels scary.
Is it like leather or like moleskin? Okay.
Yeah, the moleskin, the same exact one as the anime. I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. So
that's awesome. Yeah,
you're drawing it and don't be very.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, do I try?
Drawing it, just don't be too detailed to someone's face.
Yeah. Sorry, totally off topic, but
no, that's great.
As you're talking about it, I'm like, right, I've seen more than just those two. Come on, like you got this. Yeah.
Well, I do want to pivot a little bit and talk about some of the live action properties you've worked on, and it's kind of interesting to me when you look at all the work you've done in animation and even the little dabbling in video games with What Remains of Edith Finch. But like I'm looking at some of these credits, like Impractical Jokers, the movie, Cobra
Ah.
Kai, Legion. And they just seem like so diverse in tone, where like Impractical Jokers is what I assume is like an unscripted. I mean, I've watched a few episodes. I haven't seen the movie. I don't know if you worked on the show at all, but I know you definitely worked on the movie.
And not the show.
But something, what's that?
Mhm. Just the movie, yes.
Oh, just the movie. Okay. Okay. Well, I imagine that's a little more scripted than the show typically was, but I have to imagine, given that just the concept and the format, they probably did a fair amount of improvisation.
Mm-hmm.
And then Cobra Kai being action with a heavy comedy bent with a lot of nostalgia built in there too for the 80s, as well as I noticed the nods to like Asian culture, especially with like Miyagi-Do and those moments of like Daniel doing his meditation and his kata. And then with Legion, oh my goodness, just one of my favorite shows of all time.
Fun.
And the way that one like toes this line between trippy mindscape and horror elements, it's really interesting to me the diversity of those projects. And I think you've spoken to it a little bit, but I just kind of wanted to pick your brain about the process of animation versus live action, and then specifically within live action, like these different kinds, like a drama like miniseries versus something that's a little more reality TV based, or like even like comedy versus drama.
Right. I guess for that one, it all depends on the team and how the production likes to work. Sometimes when we score a miniseries, sometimes they send us the entire 8 episodes at once, and then we just watch it, and then that's where we go. Or it can be like a weekly thing, like or every 2 weeks you have a new episode to score. So it really depends on the production company, how they work. Those projects was kind of what I mentioned earlier, was when I was on the music team. So I got to support these incredible composers like Zach Robinson, Leo Bernberg, Jeff Russo. And it's just so cool to learn from these composers who's been in this industry for a while and how they like to work. Because I definitely think it takes a village to meet those deadlines, and it's very fast paced. Lots of things that goes behind the scenes for that. So I feel like it's important for composers to have a team, to start building a team too once you start going into these shows. And so like what I mentioned earlier, like animation, I get to be brought on a bit earlier to start thinking about the themes. Sometimes for live action TV shows, you don't really have much time. Like I'm scoring a live action TV show also at the same time, and it's so cool to see how different these two projects go. Like there's a bit less time to dabble in themes and everything, because everyone's just trying to meet the deadline for live action. But again, it depends on the production company. The deadline so much is variable. So I mean, I just feel fortunate for these, like you said, diverse TV shows that I got to assist on and be on the music team on. It also has different scores, different instrumentations, different ways of writing, like you said, the 80s comedy, action, drama, like horror. It's just it kind of helps prepare me as a composer to be well versed and to be versatile, because we ultimately our job is to support the story. And if this story calls for a horror score, we got to be ready for that. If this story calls for a more action-based score, we got to be ready for that. And how do we make each score very unique to the film? I think that's always what I really try to strive for. Like I don't want it to sound like another action, a generic action track. Like I just want to add some unique elements to it to best represent the characters and the stories.
This is just kind of a question I came up with off the top of my head when you were talking about that, like towards the end there, like generic action scores. I actually have kind of been doing a rewatch of like the James Bond movies and kind of hopping around. And I watched the first of the Pierce Brosnan ones, GoldenEye, that came out in like 1995. And like the music is so like, again, credit to anybody that, puts their does creative work, because I know it's not easy to put anything out there. But honestly, the movie the music took me out of the movie. Sometimes it was just so there was such a discord there. So I'm like curious, when you're like watching something and listening, is it like ever difficult for you to get immersed because you're so paying so much attention? Yeah.
It depends what mindset I'm in. Sometimes I do want to just watch the film, so like then I would, but then it's hard because I like just I really pay attention to it, and then it's like I will start. Yeah, I just pay attention to it. But but I feel that once I don't pay attention to it, like I'm like listening to the story, like you said, I feel that that's the best. I don't know, that means the composer did their job, because it's not distracting, it's not in the way. But again, it depends. Sometimes the music has to be in the forefront for certain, like the music has to be very, very dramatic in those big action scenes, maybe to, accentuate the action or the danger of the situation or something like that. So no, I learned to appreciate all the scores, but when I'm watching something, I try to turn that brain off, and then once I'm done with it, I love to listen to the soundtrack on its own.
Very cool. Very cool.
Is there any scores that you guys liked recently that you heard this
well, one of my favorites of all time. Oh, go ahead, Zuhair.
No, go ahead. Now I got to think of one.
Oh, okay. Well, this one's not super.
You guys on the
no, this one's not super recent. But anytime I'm asked this question, I have to bring up Tron Legacy. What Daft Punk did with Tron Legacy, I love that score so much. I'll put it on anytime, anywhere.
Oh, so fun!
It
gets you hyped out,
in it. Yeah,
that's a good one.
That's right. Yeah.
I've already mentioned Raya and My Hero, but now that House of Dragons is on, hearing that Game of Thrones score again and the variety of music in that, and that opener is just such a banger. And the fact that they used the same one and kind of stayed consistent with that style of music was just great.
Yeah, that's hard to score too, because there's so many characters. So that's where thematic writing really comes into play. Like, because there's so many characters, it's helpful to have a theme associated with each character so when the audience hear like, this is the Lannisters, or this is I haven't seen the recent House of Dragons yet, but it's on my to watch list.
A lot less characters, thank God.
Yeah, I wish I had the name of that composer off the top of my head, because if I'm not mistaken, it was the same gentleman who did Westworld, and I love
Ramin Djawadi.
Yes, I love that, the opening to Westworld, everything about it, especially the music.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah, but also Dune, Denis Villeneuve's 2021 Dune, directed by Hans Zimmer. I think that one definitely just transported me to another world. It took me to Arrakis. And again, that one featured a lot of vocalization. I think, like, even thinking about it right now, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Like, it's really powerful, and I enjoyed that one a lot.
Yeah, and how closely the music just supported the visuals, right? Like, they both were supporting each other. It's such a great work of art in general.
Totally.
Another one I just remembered: The Batman.
The Batman?
Everything about that was just so intense.
I feel like they went with a very like noir kind of style too, which is kind of cool for the Batman. Yeah, that was really cool.
Good old Michael Giacchino.
Yeah, I love. Yeah, he's one of my musical heroes too. I mean, anything that he writes is really good.
Yeah, he's actually getting the opportunity to direct for the first time with Marvel just announcing their Halloween special, Werewolf by Night.
I saw. Super cool. I saw I'm so curious to see what it's going to be about, because the trailer or the teaser looks really unique.
Totally. I'm a horror buff, so I'm definitely on board. And I think it's Gail Bernal Garcia, I believe, is the actor's name. I might be butchering that, but yeah, he's I should know his name better, because he's been one of my favorites ever since The Science of Sleep. He was great in that.
Nice. Oh, sorry, mentioning another score that's super cool. It's Moon Knight. Have you guys seen that one?
Yes.
Yeah, because that score was epic, and the composer, he's just so nice. I got to meet him recently at an event, and he's just so nice and so humble, and I just love meeting composers like outside of their composing element, just as a human, like, you did this, and like if they're a super nice person, it makes me want to support them even more. Like it's like, wow, you're so humble. I mean, and he's so successful now. I mean, it's and rightfully so, because the score was incredible.
Oh, is it a lot to try to put like the face to these names? Like, now that you're in the industry, when you hear something for the first time, you have to be like, I need to know what this guy looks like next time I go to a networking event.
Not really. But then when I meet them authentically and they're super cool people, I just it does make me want to support their music more. Because like it's like, wow, you're so talented, but also you're a really cool human being. Like, actually, another person I thought of was the Queen's Gambit composer, Carlos Rivera. He's so nice. Such a cool dude, super nice, down to earth, very humble. So like now every time his name comes up, I'm just like, yay, that's amazing. Or like the Cobra Kai composers, like Zach Robinson, Leo Berenberg, like they're just such nice people. And it's cool to be, it's nice to be in the industry where everyone can support one another and be inspired by one another. Because ultimately, it's all competition, but that's not how I like to see it. Like, I genuinely just want to connect with others and learn from others. That's a better, I don't know. I don't want to lose track of why I'm doing what I do. It's not for the competition or anything. It's just, I want to feel inspired. I want to see a film or a content that makes me feel inspired, write music that hopefully can inspire people.
Yeah, it's really refreshing to hear that you have such a healthy perspective, and I think that mindset has served you well so far. And I think the accolades you've garnered so far in your body of work really speaks to that. And I think your trajectory is only going to be upwards, and you're going to be standing shoulder to shoulder with a lot of these people you're showering with praise right now. But
thank you.
Of course, yeah. For my purposes, I don't have too many more questions prepared. I'll open the floor to Zuhair if he has anything else. And of course, want to provide you the opportunity. I know you've got like NDAs and have mentioned a couple projects that you can't really talk too much more about. But if you want to direct our listeners to anything specifically that we haven't brought up here, by all means.
So something really cool that happened after Blush was they hired me to score the Skydance Animation studio logo.
Oh,
so it's actually out. It's in front of it's going to be in front of all of Skydance's production. Like, and the most recent one is Luck on Apple TV.
Yes.
So when you see when you see their logo, it's actually a homage to Blush, because they used they still did the planets and also the 2 spaceships, and I got a chance to use the Blush theme for their first studio logo, which is insane. Such a crazy honor, and also almost floored myself when they told me that. But yeah, it's so cool I just feel really grateful for Skydance's trust in me. To score something like that. I don't know. I was so psyched.
I'm so happy for you. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, check it out. It's I'm really proud of that logo. It's super. Yeah, I love it. It represents the studio well.
So I only have one more planned question for you. What happens outside of this is a totally different story. So we had another interview last week with the animation lead for Central Park, which is also on Apple TV Plus.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And what I talked to her about is something I want to ask you about as well. I'm an Apple fanatic. I keep up with all the products that come out, all the services. I was very skeptical when they said that they were coming with a streaming service, because the main pitch these days seems to be, we take a popular show like The Office and we snag it from everything else. We isolate it in a show to make you sign up for it, and then they bring the original projects on top of that. Mm-hmm. Apple TV was very unique, and it's like, we're just going to make our own stuff right off the bat. I believe a lot of the stuff that they've made has been incredible. Stuff like Ted Lasso, Mythic Quest, Battlefield, Defending Jacob. Do you have favorites on Apple TV? So while people are hopefully signing up to watch Blush, they can check out this other stuff too.
Oh yeah, well, Luck is amazing. That's the first feature that Skydance came out with. Coda is a really good movie on Apple TV Plus as well. Ted Lasso, of course, like that's why I signed up for Apple TV, because that show's so good. Mythic Quest was really fun. That's one of the best shows
I've ever seen. Period.
It's so good. It just makes my heart so warm, and it came out. I think it came out during the pandemic, right? And it brought me a lot of hope.
Servants did.
A lot of hope during that difficult time. But I mean, there is so many cool content on there. to name a few. So definitely sign up for it, because I also selfishly want you to watch Blush and check out the logo. And I mean, and I know there's gonna be more cool content coming out, because they're just such an innovative company, and that's all I'll say about it.
I love the stuff that's come out so far, and I can't preach it enough. And for it only being like what, $4 a month, $5 a month.
Yeah, no, I think it's so worth it. It's worth it. It's one of the Morning Show. That's another really good. Yeah. I really like that show as well. So
the last season of C is out with Jason Momoa.
Yes. That's another one I haven't seen, but I heard really good things about it as well. So honestly,
action is incredible on that.
Yeah, I know a lot of people complain about having to sign up for streaming service, but at this point, I have them all. It's okay. It's my job too. I want to watch it, and I'm passionate about it, and I want to support it. So at this point, I have them all.
I just love consuming good content too.
Exactly. Like it doesn't feel like a job after a while, because I do love it, and that's the way I feel that this industry is going.
Well, that's incredible. I'm extremely happy for you, excited for you. Again, congratulations on Blush. Congratulations on the Skydance opening logo. That's amazing to know that every single Skydance production is going to have a little touch of joy there. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Such an honor. Super, super grateful.
And please come back to talk to us when the secret inclusive project of yours comes out.
Oh, I would love to. I really will. That one, I have a whole new thing to talk about. So I would definitely, I would message you guys, like, please have me on.
Yes, we'd love to have you.
Or if you ever want to talk anime, I'll definitely have you on for that too.
Yeah, I just want to nerd out and talk. That's the thing. Like, I love this field, because like I really feel like there's so many like-minded individuals. I feel like I can be myself and be a nerd and not be afraid, be ashamed of it. It's like everyone just loves content. So
yeah, I think we should do a Studio Ghibli episode at one point in time, and I think you'd be a perfect guest for that.
Would love to.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for having me. Seriously.
Yeah. Zuhair, you mentioned Joy's Instagram, and Joy, is that some place you want to direct people? Any other social medias?
So all of my social media is just Joy Ngiaw, JoyNgiaw, and you'll find me on there. It helps to have a unique last name.
Yes.
All the Joy Ngiaw is me.
Yeah. Well, I can only say again, it was an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the work that you put out into the world, the beautiful music. That's going to do it for me this week. What a great episode. What a great interview. What a great conversation. Thanks to everybody for making this show possible and for tuning in. That's TOONIN.
Thank you
and
so
as
much.
Always, stay whelmed. Thank you for listening to the Animation Deliberation Podcast, a proud member of the Stranded Panda Network. If you would like to contact us, you can email animationdeliberationpodcast@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter @animationdelib1. For this and other great shows, you can visit strandedpanda.com or join the great community that is the Stranded Panda Chat Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/svchat. Tune in next time, and remember, stay whelmed.